Hello, friends. I'm Anderson Marchak,
And I'm Ricardo Segura.
and we are the Panel Bros. Welcome to the panel.
Welcome to the panel.
Well, folks, we have a treat for you. I normally do my top 10 in written form online, as does Ricardo.
Yup.
And I only did a video one time on one of my other channels, and I haven't done it in a few years, actually. Um, we had a little world situation go on, so it's kind of affected how often someone goes to the movie theater or is able to see things and time and such. But since we started this up, I had a conversation with Ricardo. I said, at some point in time, I think we should do our top 10. And I like to have the Oscars as a goal as far as a date goes, as the latest I can put a top 10 out because it takes time to get to see a lot of these movies because sometimes they don't come out by the end of December. They come out in January when they're available to everyone. Award season starts picking up and we start hearing about these movies and such. So, just in time for the Oscars, we are going to be doing our top 10 movies of 2022 for you.
Of 2022. I apologize because I feel like I held this video off for a little while because there were certain movies I
Yeah,
just couldn't get to right away. And I was like, we were waiting on certain ones. And I was like, oh, as soon as I see it, we can do it. And now we're all caught up. I was like, all right, we can finally do it now.
exactly. Yeah, I was definitely ready to go a lot earlier this year, but there was a couple movies that I knew Ricardo had to see that I knew him so much that he would want to put it on his top 10, one in particular. So,
Yes.
um, that's as far as that goes. But we're going to kick things off with some honorable mentions, and
Oh,
I'm going to go first. So, my first honorable mention is The Woman King.
all right.
So that's Viola Davis. Just thought the acting was great. Had a nice ensemble cast there. I had another honorable mention here, Bullet Train.
That was so much fun.
Really, yeah, really cool concept there. I think that was a Guy Ritchie movie, or it looked
Oh,
like a Guy. No, no, no,
yeah. I know it's not Guy Ritchie. I'm
no.
like, hold
That's
on.
I think it's the guy that did Atomic Blonde.
I'll let you know right now who did it. It's from David Leitch.
Yeah, and okay, and then I want to just confirm that. Yeah, he did
Oh
Atomic
yeah.
Blonde. Yeah, Deadpool. Let's see here, Deadpool 2. Like,
That movie is so fun and ridiculous, man.
yeah, Bullet Train, Hobbs and Shaw. So, yeah,
Yup.
yeah. So, Bullet Train. Um, my next honorable mention is Babylon. It's
Babylon, baby.
oh man, Damien Chazelle. I couldn't resist just because of Margot Robbie's performance. The movie is just absolute insanity from
It's
beginning to end.
chaos.
Yes, absolute chaos, insanity, whatever words you want to use. Um, typical Damien Chazelle soundtrack, but just that Margot Robbie performance, couldn't deny it. The next one here, I'm a little, I don't want to say this. I like comedies, but
Mhm.
it's hard to make me laugh.
Okay.
And this movie made me laugh a lot. And it's The
What is it?
Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent,
Bro.
starring Nicolas Cage
And Pedro
and
Pascal,
Pedro
bro.
Pascal.
That
Yeah,
movie is so funny.
I'm not even
It's
thinking about it.
so good. It's so good.
Yeah, and it's Nicolas Cage playing a fictionalized version of himself, and it's just absolutely ridiculous from beginning to end, and I laughed so much, so I had to include it in my honorable mentions here. And the last one here was on my top 10 for a while, but it
Mhm.
was I really appreciated it as a movie and as a cinematic experience, but as far as wanting to see it again anytime soon, I didn't have the desire, and that's why I really couldn't include it in my top 10, and it's Avatar: The Way of the Water.
Wow.
So, yeah. So, Way of the Water, but I did wanna at least mention it,
Mhm.
obviously, and it's the same thing with the first Avatar movie. I really appreciate it as a movie. It's, um it's definitely one of my top 10 movies of the year that year came out, but this year there was just too many that I enjoyed a lot more. Maybe things will change in time because it is a great movie,
Mhm.
but I couldn't include it in my top 10 for the sake of this list. So those are my honorable mentions of 2022. Ricardo, what are your honorable mentions?
All right, so I got a few myself, and I made sure, and it's good because you had some, and you didn't mention any of my honorable mentions, which is
Okay,
great because now we get a nice, collaboration of movies for people to watch.
great.
So my first honorable mention was The Northman from Robert
All
Eggers,
right.
because the Northman, man, that Norse mythology and the oh my god, what a it's a vengeance story. You have Alexander Skarsgård, Nicole Kidman, Ethan Hawke, and Willem Dafoe. Like, you got a great cast, you got great performances. The fights are insane. The shots are great. They blur the line between Norse mythology and reality. I loved it. It was a great time. It was one of those movies that when I watched that, I feel like it helps me get away from the formula of like superhero films and comic book films. It was one of those movies where I was like, I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm enjoying the ride. Nicole Kidman, man, she's such a standout in that
She's
movie.
great.
She's only playing a supporting character, but Nicole is just, she's so good. And anything that she's in, she has my attention. So The Northman gets an honorable mention from me. Another one going into the horror realm right now. One of my again, we talked about IPs before, right? How, like,
Right.
we don't hate IPs, we just want to change it up. But for me, I gotta include Scream. The latest Scream that
All
came
right.
out in
Fair enough.
2022. I love the Scream franchise. I think that the latest Scream was a reminder of just how much legs this thing still has. I can't wait for Scream 6. They went as we know, the Scream movies always like to poke at the audience a little bit and fans, and I love that. I don't want to spoil it, but I love their take this time. I loved what they were so meta about this time. And again, it was really, really cool. We have our legacy characters returning and whatnot. Maybe some make it out, maybe some don't. But
Right.
Scream gets an honorable mention for me. That's my horror pick. And we got some more horror picks on this honorable
That's all
mentions.
right.
I'm gonna put them together. X and Pearl. X and
All
Pearl
right. That's
are
fair.
my honorable mentions. I'm putting them together because essentially they're one cohesive story. One's a prequel, and it just kind of follows in that. Mia Goth, man,
Yeah, that's okay.
just unbelievable performance. And it's I actually like Pearl more than I like X. I enjoyed X. I think
Right.
X had an overwhelming amount of just like extreme positive word of mouth. And sometimes when that happens, you can kind of pedestal a film before you see it. And that might have been what I did. So I elevated X so high that when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is a great movie.
Right.
But it didn't feel like it changed the game for me like it did for many other people. But it's fantastic. But Mia Goth, man, like,
Yeah.
she is a joy to watch, regardless of whether or not she's playing a crazy person or not. She does it really well. So X and Pearl, though, that one kind of gets locked for me. There is one that you did mention that I forgot. Bullet Train. Absolutely, Bullet Train
All
gets
right.
all my honorable mentions. I was going through my top 10 and I was juggling in and out with it.
Yeah.
And Bullet Train, again, amazing cast, amazing lineup, great action sequences, great comedy, made me laugh quite a bit, which was fun. Some characters that stood out that I was like, I would love to see those characters in other movies. You had your boy Bad Bunny, one of the top selling
Right.
artists going today. Puerto Rico, you know what I'm saying? I was
Yeah,
hyped. I was
man.
like, let's do it. So that one, and you know what? Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. That
Okay.
another horror film that I really enjoyed that gets an honorable mentions list for me because it was a nice. I thought it was a nice shift on the who done it, and you'll only understand what I'm saying if you've seen the movie.
Right.
I went into this movie going, "Oh, it's a whodunit film made for like the new generation of youngsters today." I thought that's what it was, and then when I watched it, I was like, "Oh no, there's much more happening in this movie than I anticipated."
Right.
You've got a whole they're pointing at the differences, between millennials, Generation Z, and society and social media and everything else, and has one of the best twists that I've seen in a long time in a whodunit film, where I was just like they had me on the edge of my seat of like, am I gonna be able to figure this out? Nope. I never had a chance. I never had a chance at it. So for me, those are my honorable mentions. I mean,
Good
obviously,
stuff.
you and I can go on and on and
Oh
on
yeah.
with movies that we would love to talk about, but those are ones that I so thoroughly enjoyed that if you haven't seen these movies, please do, because I had a great time with them.
Sounds good. Awesome. So the fact that we didn't have a lot of the same honorable mentions, that lets me know we're going to have a lot of the same movies within the top 10. So
Yeah, yeah, I think there's quite a few.
so, and just so you folks know, we didn't tell each other about our lists. We didn't tell each other
Nope.
about our honorable mentions. The only thing that, well, let's save that for later. There was one that we
Yeah.
knew we would that was
Yes.
going to match, but you'll find that out shortly here. So we're going to kick things off here. The official top 10 for top 2022. Number 10 for me is going to be Smile.
Ooh.
So, yes, kicking things off with a horror movie here. The reason why I put Smile on here is because it was scary. And
It
um,
was.
horror movies aren't always scary. It is hard to make something that is actually scary, both disturbing and scary.
Mhm.
And for me, it did that for me. It reminded me of one of my favorite horror movies, one of our favorite horror movies, It
Yeah.
Follows.
Yes.
And I liked that it was an original.
Yep.
It's another thing, and just the way that it surprised me. I didn't think it would bother me, but it totally did.
It's
So
good, man.
yeah, that's as far as Smile goes. So
All right.
it's my number 10.
Well, let me just point out, I
Yeah,
love Smile.
go
I
for it. Yeah.
love Smile. Smile is great. I'm putting it out there too. I'm putting it out there. Smile is great. All right. So my number 10 is the third of a trilogy.
Okay.
It's from a native of New Jersey, from Mr. Kevin Smith. It's Clerks 3.
All right.
Now, Clerks 3. Now, let me be completely frank with you guys. I never in a million years would have believed that a Clerks film was ever going to make a top 10 for me.
Right.
Ever. Ever. I enjoy Kevin Smith. I love what he's about. He makes the movies that he wants to make. I got to respect that whether I like him or I don't. Whether I like, and what I mean by him is the films. Whether I like the films or I don't, I always respect the fact that Kevin Smith sets out to make the movies he wants to make. Now, Clerks 3 hit a little differently. And the reason why I made my top 10 is because of the experience I got from it. It's not a perfect movie in any sense of the word, but it moved me. I remember being so emotionally drained when that movie was done because for those of you who know, and for those of you who don't know, Kevin Smith, prior to writing this film, had a heart attack and he had a very
Mm.
close near death experience. And the original script for Clerks 3 was drastically different. He talked about it at a show, and it's a completely different film. And it was a film in itself still about death lurking around the corner. But after he actually experienced it, he understood that his first script was way off because he never came that close before. And now, having actually come that near death, he changed the script, and it's what we got. And it was just a beautiful story. And that's crazy to say that, right? Like a Clerks movie, a beautiful
Yeah.
story, what? But it was very emotional. You could feel everything about Kevin in the movie, and I love that about movies, right? Sometimes you can feel a director 100%, and I felt like I could feel everything about Kevin Smith, everything he loves about movies, everything that he loves about his friends and his family, everything he loves about life, and he put it into this film, and I just found myself just so emotionally moved by it. Because again, I don't want to go into too much detail because if you haven't seen it, I would like for people to see it, but it did things for me that I didn't expect, and I think that kind of took me off guard. And I watched it twice, because the first time I watched it I was just an emotional wreck. I was just sobbing and
Hmm.
crying like every 20 minutes or so. And then I watched it a second time to kind of watch it again, same effect. But yeah, so surprisingly, man, Clerks
All
3
right.
is number 10 for me.
All right. Good stuff. I haven't seen it yet. I'm not a really big fan of that franchise, so that's probably why I haven't seen it yet. But
Yep.
good stuff. So next up is number 9. So love a good ensemble cast. So my number 9 movie is Glass Onion, a Knives Out story.
The Glass Onion, baby.
Yeah,
Batista.
yeah, we did a spoiler talk on that shortly after it was released on Netflix, and I kept coming back to it, like how much of a good time I had with it, how much did I want to see it again. All those things factor into it. You know, it seems like Batista's just on a roll right now, and
Oh
it was
yeah.
just fun. I just for the simple fact, like I love a good ensemble cast, and I had a great time. So, I like murder mystery movies, and just rooting for Ryan Johnson with this property, so to speak. So, Glass
It's a great
Onion.
movie, man. It's a great movie. I had a lot of fun with it. I like Ryan Johnson when he's in this genre, right? Like I really like
Yeah,
this. You know what I mean? Like he did the Star Wars, he did the major IP. This is what I really like. I'm like, yo, keep these whodunit films. Again, he does something unique with his whodunit films as well. They're not going to be a carbon copy cutout of what you think a whodunit film is, and I love that about his movies.
yeah, absolutely. So that's my number 9.
Oh boy. All right. I'm gonna give you my number 9.
Yeah.
My number 9 does fall in the horror genre. It falls in the sci-fi genre. It can fall into the action genre. My number 9 is Prey.
All right.
We got ourselves a almost not a sequel, but a legacy prequel to Predator, which is
Right.
arguably one of the greatest action movies of all time. Can't wait for us to talk about that one.
Oh yeah.
But Prey. The reason I enjoyed Prey so much is because I feel like Prey was something that a lot of us had been asking for a long time. I feel like the Predator franchise kind of struggled to kind of land on its feet again, after the first one. Like they never were really able to capture the magic of the first film. I enjoy Predator 2. I know a lot of people don't. It's got a lot of mixed reviews to negative reviews. I enjoy a lot of aspects about it. It's not a perfect movie by any sense, but I felt like Prey was absolutely the best route we could take with the Predator lore. We went back to a time where the technology isn't there. Even for the Predator, his technology isn't what we know in our future films. So it kind of takes everything back. We're back in the forest. We're dealing with hunters, hunter versus hunter. You have a story where she wants to be taken seriously. She wants to be looked at as a hunter, and people around her are saying, like, that's not your job. Just go be a gatherer, go be a healer. And she's proven the odds wrong. And it's just great. The kills are brutal. They're awesome. Again, it was amazing that they got to speak in their language as well, and it's dubbed for those people who want to see it in their language on Hulu. I'm kind of sad it didn't get a theatrical release,
Right.
but this might have been the smarter move, because I can almost guarantee you more people saw this sooner because it was on a streaming platform, and it was so good that it immediately got people talking about seeing more Predator films again and going through history and doing like an anthology and whatnot. Great Easter eggs in this movie, great performances. Again, great action sequences, great kills. All I could ask for in a Predator film. My number 9 is Prey.
All right. Great choice.
Love that movie.
I enjoyed Prey as well. You know that I'm a big Predator fan.
Yeah.
So the
Yep.
first Predator
Yep.
movie. So we're on here to number 8. And for me, number 8 is going to be Nope by Jordan
Nope.
Peele.
Good movie.
So the thing about Nope is that, and I hate doing this because he said no, it's my Nope.
Yeah. Yeah.
But people ask him, "Is this your Jaws?" And he said, "No, it's my Nope."
It's
But
my Nope.
it felt like Jaws because the less was more approach worked for me, and it
Hmm.
made the movie more disturbing. Um, you know I mean, not counting the scenes with the chimpanzee.
Hmm.
Those were pretty disturbing as well,
Oh
unsettling.
yeah.
But once you found out about the concept of this movie and what the movie was about, it's like, oh, okay. And then they had like glimpses of what
Hmm.
the entity uh, does, and what's going on there. And um yeah, I was just entertained, and that's the thing with Jordan Peele. He does thrillers, he does horror, but he always has some type of mystery going on. And for me, the mystery portion just kept me tied in when I was watching this in the movie theater. So
So good. Nope. I
yeah.
love when Nope came out and everyone thought it was an anagram for a not of planet Earth. I love
Right.
that. And
Oh, there we
he was
go.
like, nah, it's literally because he felt that, if a black person was in this scenario, they would just be like, nope. And
Right.
and it's in the movie. There's a great scene in the movie where, our lead character, he's kind of looking up and he sees Jean Jacket, which is the name, and he just kind of says, nope. And I was
Right.
like, there it is. There it is. It's a great one. That's a great one.
Yeah.
All right. My number 8.
Yeah.
My number 8 is a comic book film. My number 8 comes from your boy Matt Reeves. My number 8 is The Batman
All
with
right.
Robert Pattinson. It
All
is
right.
number 8. I thoroughly enjoyed this film. It's one of those movies that I was happy with a lot of the decisions that they made. It was the first time I personally felt like we were seeing a true crime noir Batman film. We have more Batman in this film than any other film. I think he's in the cowl for like maybe 80 something percent of this movie. You know, he's never not in the cowl. It's a very Batman driven story. I would have enjoyed seeing a duality between Bruce Wayne and Batman. And in this version of Matt Reeves' story, you don't necessarily get that. You get Batman 100% of the movie, whether he's in the cowl or not. You're getting Batman. But still, it's got some amazing story beats. Again, it follows Seven, and we mentioned this in the past. That if you're
Right.
a fan of the movie Seven, you will be a fan of this. It takes a lot of inspiration from Seven. You know, we're dealing with the Riddler and whatnot. Robert Pattinson, I can't wait to see more. I want to see more from him. I want to see his Bruce Wayne, because you and I both know Bruce Wayne in itself is a mask.
Right.
I want to see that performance. We haven't gotten there yet. I would like to see it. But yeah, I have shaved off 20-30 minutes? Possibly.
Right.
Possibly. But still makes my top 10. It's my number 8, and it is The Batman.
All right. Sounds good. Well, spoiler alert, folks. Batman is my favorite superhero, so um, it's definitely making my list, and it's higher than what Ricardo just said.
Yep, yep,
So
yep.
um, I'm a little surprised at that, but good stuff. Good stuff. I'm at this point. I'm glad it made the list. So
Yeah, yeah, dude, I'm telling you, I was going through this list and I was
yeah.
just trying to think of movies, because this is all about our personal favorite, like what
Right.
our experiences and what moved us. And yeah, so I was surprised. I was like, oh
That's
my
okay,
God, it's
man.
at number 8. Oh,
That's
oh,
okay.
I hope nobody throws any sharp weapons at me. I was like, oh God, I don't mean it.
Yeah, to your point, I will agree with you. I felt it could have been a little bit shorter,
Mhm.
um, but we'll save it for when I mention it, and I'll let you know my thoughts on it. So um, we are here at my number 7, and now I'm going to surprise you a little bit. My number
Okay.
7 movie is Prey.
Yes, baby.
So I put it a little bit higher because I am a big Predator fan. And I knew I wanted it in my top 10. There was a point where this movie wasn't in my top 10.
Oh,
And
we got to give it love.
yeah, and I'm just looking at those other movies, my honorable mentions, and I liked all of them. And it's just like, dude, you like Prey a lot, just it's a genre film. It went straight to streaming. It's a legacy sequel. Don't deny it. Just because of all those reasons, you enjoyed that movie, and I did enjoy
Oh,
that
I
movie. I
do.
watched it twice.
Dude, I watched it 3 times. It's so good.
Yeah, I did like a back-to-back deal, like, I watched it 2 days back to back,
That's
it
how you
was
do it.
great. I was sad that it wasn't released in the movie theater,
Same. It
so
was one of those things that I was like, "Oh," but then, like you had mentioned, like, what if people were so burnt out, they weren't gonna go see it in theaters and they were gonna
right,
wait anyway? Maybe the title would have confused people.
right.
Like, is this a Predator film? Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. So, just the way she handles herself in the forest, um, Amber Midthunder, her performance also just I love when a woman lead just takes charge. It was just so entertaining. They did a couple things that mirrored the original Predator movie that I liked, that wasn't just I didn't feel like they were cheap callbacks, it felt right. That's just the way
Yeah.
to put it, it felt right, and we had many conversations about this, the public had many conversations. Let's just keep doing this for Predator forever. There's no
Yep.
reason to stop this formula now,
There's
so
no.
there's so much world history we can go through. Let's do it. So, for that reason, for me, Prey is number 7.
It's a good pick, man. I love Prey. I
Yeah.
love Prey. All right, so now we're at my number 7. My number 7 also falls into the horror genre, a thriller genre, great cast. Almost feels like you're watching a stage play for a lot of it. For any foodies out there, my number 7 is The Menu.
All right.
because the
Oh yeah,
menu rules.
there we go.
The menu, man, you've got Ralph Fiennes, your girl, Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yes.
You got Nicholas Holt, you got John Leguizamo, you got Hong Chow, you got a phenomenal lineup here. And this movie, again, it touches on society, social standings, top 1%. It's got arguably one of the funniest lines I've heard in a horror movie in a long time. And I'm gonna drop it. I don't even care. We got a character in the movie, and he goes, "Where did you go to school?" And she goes, "Brown." And he says, any student debt?" And she goes, "No." And he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, you're dying tonight." And
So petty.
it's one of the funniest lines in the entire movie, but it's dark and twisted.
Right.
But again, it was a great movie, great performances. If you're a foodie, you'll probably like it even more. I'm not a foodie, so those aspects, while they were cool, it's not something that jumped to me automatically. I know you like food. I
Oh
know
yeah.
food
I
is your
love
thing.
food.
Yep, I know you like to cook. I seen some great stuff.
Yeah.
So it was awesome seeing that, and it was awesome seeing the play of us versus them. You
Right.
know, that's a question throughout the film. Are you one of them or are you one of us? Where do you stand on the food chain, et cetera, et cetera. Again, dark, twisted, engaging is everything. And just I was on the edge of my seat. I didn't know what was gonna happen. I had no idea. And again, you got Anya Taylor-Joy and Ralph Fiennes just acting across from one another,
Oh yeah.
giving these amazing performances. Those two were just sitting in an office at one point and just talking, and I could have just watched that for like an
Yeah.
hour. It was so good and amazing ending. I don't, endings are going to be, up to the viewer if you like it, if you don't. I love this ending. I think it's great. If you haven't seen The Menu, I'm plugging it. Go see The Menu on HBO Max. HBO Max, give us a shout out. Go watch it on HBO Max. That is my number 7 film, The Menu.
Sounds good. Excellent pick. Well, uh, I haven't said the menu yet, and you know how much I loved it. So
Yep, yep,
it's coming.
yep.
It's coming. I'll save how I felt about it for when that time comes. So we have now arrived at number 6. Just moving along here. This movie was, I felt, probably one of the best acted movies of the year, not just by one person, but by various people. And it's going to be The Banshees of Inisherin.
Ooh, that's a good movie.
And it I put it on, and it just felt a little sad when it first started, and I was just like, oh, is this going to take a minute for me to get into it? And then you start getting the comedic elements, and everyone with their Irish accents. It's just
It's so good.
it's so much is going on. The lines, some of the lines are just so ridiculous. The concept is kind of out there too. Two best friends, the friendship is ending, and the things that they're dealing with, and what Gleason's character is doing to Colin Farrell's character. Just a whole bunch of stuff is going on. But um, I uh, I just thought about just how much the movie made me feel,
Yeah,
and it was just it was a feel good movie at the end of the day, and
yeah.
for that I put it a little bit higher than the other movies I enjoyed. So number 6, The Banshees of Inisherin.
Dude, it's a great movie, and you got amazing performances from Colin Farrell and everyone in that movie. What am I talking about? Everyone is giving a great performance. And it's sad because when I was watching that film, I wondered, like, like your best friend one day just telling you we can't be friends anymore.
Right,
And usually when people think about a breakup, it's always of a significant other, but I couldn't imagine what it would be like to lose that close of a friend,
right,
especially with no reason other than, this person wants to be remembered for something else and they want to be a part of something, and they know that they need to cut you out of their life. And it's really sad and tragic, and they find a way to still incorporate comedy into it where you can kind of laugh at what's happening. And then there's just some absurd stuff happening in this movie
right.
where you're like, wait a minute, we kind of went from 0 to 100 really quick, guys. How did we get here? But that is an excellent pick. I absolutely love it. It's got Oscar recognition, so it's obviously, Will Teller to a lot of people, but that is a good pick.
Yes.
So for me, we're at number 6, right?
Yes,
We're at number
sir.
6. All right, so my number 6 is an animated film from your boy Guillermo del Toro. It's Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio.
All right.
I
Hi.
love
Wow.
this movie a lot higher than I thought it was going to be, and this is one of those movies where I found myself telling people to watch it, like straight up, not just putting it on social media, but like texting someone and say, "Hey, do you like animation? Yeah, I like anime. Okay, can you watch Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, please?" Hitting up my friends, "Hey, go watch Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio."
Yeah.
Being in my chats, "Have you guys seen Pinocchio yet? It's on Netflix. Go watch it." Like this was that movie, and Pinocchio obviously is a story that has had many different versions throughout history and whatnot. And Guillermo just has a really good way of showcasing love in his films and stories, great characters, and pain. And there is a beautiful sadness to this film that I couldn't help but be moved by it. And did I weep? Of course I did. I'm a very sensitive individual. It happens. But it's just it's beautifully done. And it's a nice change from the other Pinocchio stories that I know. I'm a huge fan of animation. It's a stop motion
Yeah.
animation, which can sometimes be hit and miss for a few people. But I'm a huge fan of animation. I'm happy that it's nominated for best animated feature. I loved it. And I could talk about it nonstop, but again, I try to refrain from spoiling too much about the new beats that they've incorporated in the film. But terrific voice acting, terrific stop motion, great writing, and at the end of the day, it's just a very, very, very beautiful story that moved me. So for me, it's number 6, man.
It's all right. And you know what? You're a father, and
Yeah,
it's about a father, and it's it's a really heartfelt movie. I enjoyed it as well. It was put it this way, I went into it thinking it was one thing, and then
mhm,
it was something completely else, a lot more
yeah,
sentimental and emotional than I thought it was going to be. So, solid pick, man.
oh yeah,
All right. So, we are here at number 5.
let's do it.
So, the top 5 movies of 2022. My number 5 pick is going to be The Whale.
Oh, it's the whale.
Not
It's the
yet.
whale. All right, I was waiting. I was like, "Oh, is it now?" Okay, no, it's
Not
not now.
yet.
Okay,
It's The
okay.
Whale. So, uh, I went to see this. I went to see this in the theater as soon as it hit nationwide. But well,
Mhm.
actually, it didn't hit the area that we live in for a while,
Yeah, it took a good minute, to be honest with
and
you.
eventually it did. It was at least 3 or 4 weeks after the nationwide release. It was a while, and we've been hearing so many things about Brendan Fraser's performance, and I mean the cast in general, but his performance. And I like Aronofsky. I like to give him a chance anyway. And I know that he pulls these performances out of people. He has this way of portraying the ugliness of humanity, but the beauty of humanity as well. And I felt The Whale was no exception. I know that this is it's a pretty divisive movie,
Mhm.
and but the one thing people keep coming back to is Brendan Fraser's performance. And for me, that's what it was. I was a sobbing mess for this movie in the movie theater, and more than once, and the ending especially. So for me, it's The Whale. And yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what else to add other than the fact that my number 5 is The Whale.
All right.
That
Look
is
at
my
that. Our first
that is
matching
my
number.
that is my number
Oh,
5
please
film,
share.
and I was waiting, I was like, "Oh, wait till he's done, it's my number 5."
That's cool.
But yeah, for a lot of the same reasons that you mentioned, Brendan Fraser, I'm so happy that he's having this quote unquote renaissance right now,
Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
in my opinion, there was no better way to cap it than with a performance that he had in The Whale. Just an unbelievably raw and moving performance. I said that for me throughout the film, I don't think there was ever a moment where I didn't see pain behind his eyes. And as an actor, to have to put yourself in that mindset for almost every single scene that you're in has to be extremely challenging. And we know that Brendan has dealt with some things in real life that he was probably able to channel for these scenes. And that in itself is still very hard and very difficult to put yourself in those back in those places. But all in all, it felt like the stage play that it was
It's
based on. I've never seen it, but everything's kept to one location. I love it. I love the aspect ratio of the film because it kind of makes you feel like Charlie, like you're in this small box. You know what I mean? Everything's kind of cramped. I enjoyed that. There
right,
were some scenes in the movie that made me uncomfortable.
right,
The way I'm supposed to feel when I see that what's happening in the film. But again, it's not just Brendan, you know what I mean? Like he also has his co-star in Hong Chow, who was in The Menu, and her in this film, who plays, pretty much his, his home nurse. Fantastic raw performance. You got Sadie Sink killing it. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of good performances in here to help Brendan really stand out. But I loved hearing Brendan talk about this film and talk about how much he loved Charlie as a character. And there's moments in this film where you're upset with Charlie and you're like, why are you doing this? And there's other moments in this film where you're completely moved by him,
right.
and you're rooting for Charlie. And Brendan has said it, and he says that just like Charlie, and it's one of the reasons why it moved me so much, especially also because I'm a father and relating to him being a dad, and hopefully never having to endure what he's endured. But he says, just like Charlie, man, if you can just get that one foot in front of the other and just keep moving
Yeah,
forward. And it hits every time he says it, because essentially that's Charlie, who sees the absolute best in everything, no matter how negative his life is, no matter how hurt he is, no matter how down he is. He always is looking at the positive side of things, and he just keeps continuing to try to put that one foot in front of the other. So my number 5, like you, is Darren Aronofsky's The Whale, baby.
yeah, yeah. How fast did you come to that conclusion after you saw the movie? Did you know it was going to be this high when you saw it?
I knew it was going to be top 10, had no clue it was going to be top 5.
Okay, then.
I
Um,
started lining it up, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Again, it's about experiences, and
right.
it moved me.
Yeah, I like to wait when I see something because then
Mhm.
you got to calm down because of recency bias. And
Yes.
then after a few days, initially I was like, man, that's going to be in my top five, because of how much it moved me. And then I let things calm down. And then, all right, is it still in your top five? And I said, yes,
Mhm.
it's still in my top five. So it was just a matter of deciding where. So
It's so good.
good stuff. So we are here in the top four now. And oh man, see now
This is this is where it's gonna get crazy,
I'm
man.
thinking about making an audible because man, the 3 and 4 was my top 4 I was back and forth on, but
Mm,
eventually I had to be honest with myself and my top 2 was locked in.
okay.
So it was 3 and 4 that I'm just back and forth on here, and it's probably gonna change again. I have to be true to myself.
Be true to yourself, man. Tell us your truth, man.
Yeah. So number 4 is gonna be Top Gun: Maverick.
Woo!
It's
Top Gun
gonna
Maverick.
it's gonna be Top Gun: Maverick, yeah. So, I've seen a lot of top 10 lists. It's in the top 3 everywhere for a lot of people, and I I just had to think about, like, I did you have a good time? Yeah, I had an amazing time, and I'm not a big fan of Top Gun, the franchise,
Mhm.
80s movies, sure, it's a great 80s movie, um, but as a legacy sequel, it was just so special just
Yeah.
seeing this in the movie theater and seeing just the emotions just go through. And it doesn't take itself too seriously. There's so much going on. Tom Cruise is actually short in a movie, and he's almost never. They usually prop him up, but they
Mhm.
don't, and they don't shy away from that. Um, there's a lot of emotional moments in this movie. It was just so much fun. I I I actually haven't seen it since it came out in the theater. I've only seen it once,
Mhm.
but it was enough to impact me of how much of a good time I had seeing the movie. And yeah, so I'll stop speaking because I have a feeling. So Top Gun Maverick, my number 4 movie.
It's a good pick. I'm holding back because as you know, I haven't mentioned it yet.
Yes.
And it's definitely here somewhere. So
Right.
my number 4, back to the horror community,
Sure.
sci-fi community. It's from your boy Jordan Peele. It's Nope.
Wow. Wow. High.
Nope made it. Nope made it that high. Now,
It's a high ranking.
Nope is, again, it's also about the experience and how it
Right.
touches us individually, right? So for me, Nope, I had the luxury of watching Nope in the theater. Now, you know that me
Right.
going to the theater is not something I get to do as often as I used to, right? So I made sure to see Nope. Like a lot of these movies in my top 10, I didn't get to see all of them in the theater, but I got to see Nope in the theater. And the experience I got from Nope in the theater was just amazing. Like you said, with the comparisons, it felt like Jaws in the sky.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to call it that because I know Jordan goes, no, it's my Nope. So I'm like, you know what? I respect you. This is your Nope.
Right.
But when I was watching it, I was like, oh, this feels like Jaws in the sky. And what I appreciated about the film, obviously, there's always a social commentary on it. I love to play with Hollywood. And, you know, once they're done with you spitting you, I don't want to give too much away. But I did enjoy that aspect of it. Great cast. You know, Kiki Palmer, this is where
She's
people started
awesome.
really talking about her. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not just her. You know, you got Daniel, who's amazing and whatnot. And you got Stephen Yun, fantastic. But this was that movie that everyone kind of walked away and be like, oh my God, Kiki Palmer. Like Kiki Palmer's so charismatic in this movie. She lights up the screen every time that she's on. Great performance, in and out. But I love the movie. I love sci-fi. Sci-fi is my favorite genre. So I like the mix of horror, and it like, I feel like majority of this movie runs as a horror film and then it switches and just goes full on sci-fi. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like maybe in the final act, I didn't really have that fear that I had in the first few acts, but now it's just a sci-fi ride, a sci-fi adventure. And I loved again that I love that split in the genre. I love that I thought I knew what this movie was about, and I was
Right.
completely wrong.
Great surprise. Yeah.
I love that. I love like, and I'm gonna mention something that's in the trailer because so it's not a spoiler, but I remember in the trailer they show a scene where there's like little green aliens in a barn, and I remember thinking, why would you show that in the trailer?
Right.
Why would you do that? And then you watch the movie and you go, oh, never mind. Okay, it's fine. It's fine because the
Right.
movie is not what you think it is. And I appreciate it because when that scene does occur in the movie, it almost felt like Jordan Peele saying, hey, I could make that movie. No problem. If that's the movie you're expecting, I can make that. But that's not what this movie is. So I appreciated that about the movie. And then when you get the twist and the
Yeah.
reveal, it's one of the most beautiful twists. I'll say beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful
Right.
twists that I've seen because I was kind of mesmerized at what I was watching. It also has one of the scariest scenes that I've seen in a long time, really uncomfortable when they're at the carnival. That's all I'm gonna say.
Right.
But it just it's disturbing. So for me, you know, great imagery, great acting, awesome cinematography, great performances, as I mentioned in the acting, but just the idea that the movie wasn't what I was expecting and it went above that. Got to give to my boy Jordan Peele. So coming at number 4 is NOPE Nope.
All right. Well,
Really
great
high.
pick.
I didn't know that. I didn't know it was gonna be that
Yeah.
high,
So,
but
when I mentioned Nope earlier, you knew it was going to be up there. So
yup.
yeah, good stuff. We have now entered the top three of
Whoo,
2022.
it's getting juicy, man.
All right. So my number three movie of 2022 is The Batman.
The Batman.
It's
There it
The
is.
Batman.
Number 3, baby.
It's The Batman. Yeah, something in the way.
Yeah.
So
Something in the way.
Nirvana.
Ooh. Yeah.
So um I voxed you immediately after seeing
Mhm.
this movie. You knew I'm a big Batman fan. You know, it's my favorite superhero, and I had to just share all my thoughts. And I couldn't wait for you to see it so you could share your thoughts with me. And I appreciated the Batman because I felt like it was a very comic accurate Batman
Yes.
with the narration, with the choice of the actor. I thought Pattinson, just the choice to be in that role. I really enjoyed Zoe Kravitz. I enjoyed the cast. I had
Yeah.
no qualms with who they chose. Zoe Kravitz as Selena. We have to mention Colin Farrell as the Penguin.
Bro.
Um, well, I forget his name. The actor that played James Gordon, Jim Gordon. Um,
I know
Jeffrey
his name
Wright.
too. Thank
Jeffrey
you,
Wright.
Jeffrey Wright. I know it
Yeah,
too, and I blanked out that
yeah.
fast.
So, and then we can keep going, but it was entertaining for me as a Batman fan, and when I saw it, I just, it was early in the year. It came out in March of last year, if I'm not mistaken. So
Mhm.
came out pretty early, and I wasn't ready to start thinking about what my top 10 of the year was going to be. Just like, what, it was a really solid Batman movie. I wasn't as blown away as many other fans were, and that was for several reasons. I don't hate long movies, but I felt this one could have been a little bit shorter. It's 3 hours. I felt it could have been a little bit shorter. Um, like you, my biggest qualm with the movie was I didn't really see Bruce too much, and
Yeah.
I wanted to see Bruce and Batman. So hopefully we see that in the follow up.
Mhm.
But these are just qualms and nitpicks. It's not like I hated the movie. Absolutely not. I made the movie my number three movie of the year. So,
Yeah, exactly.
you know, it's every time I put it on, it's just like, what, I'm picking up more things, and I'm appreciating the Seven,
Mhm.
homage, and that's a movie that I enjoy a lot. And my qualms are nitpicks. That's all they really are. But as
Yeah.
far as like, you know, appreciating the movie, it's like, well, would you watch it again? It's like, yeah, I would watch it again.
Mhm.
Just as an alternate to, whatever other Batman movie I want to watch, whether it's Burton or my favorite version, the Dark Knight trilogy, or something animated. So yeah, so the Batman is
The
number 3
Batman,
for me.
man.
And I was back and forth between that and Top Gun Maverick, for my top 3, and the only reason I put this over Top Gun was, "Well, how are you more than likely to watch the Batman again or Top Gun Maverick again?" I said, "Well, the Batman." So,
The
there we go.
Batman. And the
Yeah,
Batman is great, and I know it's like I made it number 8. I
yeah.
don't want people to think I didn't enjoy this movie. Again, I'm not saying that any other movie on this list is better than the Batman. I'm not
Right,
saying that. It's about personal experiences.
exactly.
And with the Batman, I was hyped for it. I was still feeling a little sting from everything that was happening with Warner Brothers, so that
Right.
played an influence. But Robert Pattinson did a great job. I love
Yeah,
Matt Reeves. He is one of my favorite
yeah,
directors. When I found out he was getting the chair, I was extremely excited. Colin Farrell as the Penguin is probably one of the best castings in a comic book film in a long time, because you wouldn't think Colin Farrell when you think the Penguin. And they've got some amazing Oscar worthy practical effects and prosthetics that just blow your mind, that if you didn't know, and I've spoken to people that had no idea that was Colin Farrell. And I was like, that is Colin Farrell. He's that good. So good. He's got a spin-off show coming off very soon, and we're going to be watching that on HBO Max. I'm excited for that. But yeah, the Batman was great. I mean, when I think about the Batman, I think about that scene where he's revving up the engine for the Batmobile. And it's just the loudest thing ever. And it just gets your adrenaline. You know what I mean? But yeah, I love the Batman. It's a great movie. Like you and we mentioned earlier, I would have loved to seen the duality between Bruce and,
right.
and Batman and everything else. But it's the first film. Hopefully we get that in the second. But hey, you can't hate on the Batman, man. Batman's great. One of
Good
my favorite
stuff.
lines in the movie. You got a lot of cats. It's just
Yeah,
so-
yeah,
it's just so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. It's great. It's a great movie. I'm
right.
glad it made it so high on your list. I'm glad.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
All right. So my number three.
Mhm.
My number three did not make your top 10. My number three is
Okay,
is really high. Didn't even make your top 10.
okay.
My number three came from James Cameron, and it is Avatar: The Way of Water.
Alright,
That is
man.
extremely high.
Yes, it
Now,
is.
again, the experience that I had with this movie,
Alright.
when I went to the theater, I saw this in IMAX. Okay.
It's
I saw
okay.
this in IMAX, and I was blown away by what I was seeing visually, in the same sense that I felt when we saw Avatar. Now, since Avatar, we've seen effects pick up. And that's what happens. Things, they can date out or whatnot, and we evolve, and we keep moving forward. So when Avatar came out, I remember watching in theaters and being like, whoa, like I have never seen anything like this. And as years went on and went on, we start to see technology, step up a little bit. We saw some amazing stuff in the future. Then we had The Way of Water, where I was like, well, I don't know what he's going to bring to the table that's any different than what we've been seeing over the past few years. We've seen amazing motion capture work with the Planet of the Apes films. They've got better each time. But as I was watching this movie and seeing all these great ocean scenes and our characters looking even better than they did the first time, and now you have a family aspect to it. And hey, spoiler alert, I'm a dad. So like he's already got me with brownie points there. And it reminded me when I was watching this movie about epic, how epic a blockbuster could be. And again, we talked about this in the past. Like we don't hate blockbusters. We don't hate IPs. It's just sometimes we can get a little burnt out. We want to see original films and whatnot. And I remember watching this and just feeling like, man, this feels almost reminiscent of what it felt like for me to be a kid in the 90s, going to see an action movie on big screen and just being blown away by everything. The massive scale of the movie, the visual effects, the action sequences, the drama. You know what I mean? And then you got amazing performers in there that are working with these motion capture work that are just given like a performance like any other. You know, like they have all these machines all over their faces and whatnot, and it doesn't get in the way whatsoever. And that's a skill that's really talented. I don't know how I would be able to function if I got these giant lights on my forehead and everything else, and we're wearing, you know, pajamas with a bunch of dots on us, and just watching how much these people give in their performance, so much that you can read through that and still see that raw and powerfulness of it all. Again, it emotionally struck me a few times.
Yeah.
It was a very long movie, but when it was over, I looked over at my wife and I was like, I could do another 30 minutes. I could do another 30 minutes of
Wow.
this. And she was like, I could too, because she was crying, I was crying. But yeah, so like James Cameron, look, he spent a lot of time away getting that movie ready, and it's making a lot of money at the box office. So he secured those other sequels. But it felt like, since the first one, you know, it's a standalone movie, but this, as I was watching this, I was like, okay, I can feel the blueprint of a saga. I can see what he's doing. I can
Right.
see where we're going. I can see certain questions being left on the table, some answers, but not all. So it's really high, but that experience
Yeah, it's
of
all
what
right.
I witnessed, I was like, this is one of the greatest cinema experiences I've had, just technically. So for me, Avatar: The Way of Water, it's really high. Number
All
3.
right. Sounds good. I'm glad. I'm glad. And you know what? That's cool that that happened for you.
Mhm.
And when you told me that, I said, "Wow, that's really high praise," because you saw it before I did.
Yeah, I
And
loved it, dude.
when I went, once again, I had a wonderful time. I thought it was amazing, and I appreciate what James Cameron does. He is the I mean, I can't s I need to stop saying uncrowned. He is the king of the box office, you know, 3 out
Dude,
of 3 out of the 4 top selling movies of all time, and, it was an epic experience, absolutely, and maybe as time passes, it'll make its way back into my top 10, you know? We'll see.
yeah.
I couldn't do it for today, unfortunately, you know, and things will change, you know, things always change. I
Yeah.
look back at my top 10s from years ago and, you know, some of them, they've drastically changed, so
Yep.
good stuff. Alright, so we're here at number 2,
Ooh, I'm curious.
and, yeah, I already know what yours is because by process of elimination, um, this is a movie that, I have talked about with you, and you probably forgot about it because I mentioned it quite a few times because I kept
Mhm.
asking you to see it, and I'm really big on originals. I'm really big on original concepts, and, um, for me, it is The Menu.
The Menu,
The Menu is my
baby.
number 2 movie of
S
2022. There were just so many aspects, like, when I went to the movie theater to see it, expecting one thing and getting something completely different.
Mhm.
I'm a big foodie. I love to cook. I love to eat good food. I'm not really, in the five-star section of foodie, so to speak, but
Mhm.
you know, getting to experience something like what happened in this movie, like those types of dishes, that looks amazing to me.
Yeah.
And but it was just a thoroughly entertaining experience for me. I laughed, I was surprised. It's like a dark comedy, it's a thriller. You know, like it wasn't really a horror for me. There was horror elements, but it just turned into this exciting thriller. There's this mystery and you keep wondering what's going to happen next, and you know, Fiennes with his performance just amazing. You know, I love Anya Taylor-Joy, and she's going like toe to toe with him in every single scene. Uh, I can't talk about this movie enough. I really enjoyed The Menu. I had such a great time. Um, it's a fun rewatch for me, and I just had to keep thinking about it. I'm just like, how much did you like this movie? It's like, could you watch that today? And almost every time it's like, yeah, I think I could pop that on today if I wanted to, and I
Yep.
really enjoyed the ending too. The ending was
It's a
just
great
so
ending.
out of nowhere. A lot of people hated it. I loved it.
I
I loved
love the ending.
the choice for the ending was just awesome. And everything just fell right into place for me for The Menu. So this is why it's my number two movie of 2022.
Dude, it's so good. It's so good. Like, there isn't a movie on your list at all that I'm like, no. The Menu is fantastic. I urge people to watch it. I urge people to watch it because you got great performances. And it was one of those movies. I remember seeing the trailer at the theater when I was watching Nope. And I remember I think when I left, I think I looked it up on YouTube and I think I sent the link to you. It was like, hey, like there's this movie called The Menu coming out. And every person, my wife Britt did it, a couple friends on social media did it. When I told them about The Menu, they all said, "Oh, what is it? Do they eat people?"
Right.
Like everyone just thought the same thing
And
based
they
off
did
the
that on
trailer.
purpose, though. They did it on
Yes,
purpose to
based
bait
off
you.
the trailer.
Yeah.
Yep, they baited people and like, oh, it's gonna be one of those things where they're eating really fancy food, and then they find out maybe they're on the menu, da 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 da,
Right.
right? And everybody, and I kept telling people, no, just watch it. Just watch it
Yeah.
because again, the trailer baited you in and it gave you something completely different. Almost in the same way, the characters in that movie are baited in
Right.
thinking one thing and it's something completely
Right.
different.
And then once again, the social commentary, that was another reason too. Like, and each person represented different
Mhm.
parts of society. Like those types of movies just speak to me, man. So
It was good, and look, there were some times where you would listen to Chef, what he was saying, and you'd be like, I mean, he kind of got a point.
right.
You know what I mean? Like, some of these people aren't the best people, But I like that. I like that question. I like that the stuff with morality, and again, super funny in the darkest ways. You know what I mean? In the darkest ways, it's really funny. So I'm glad that it made it to your top two because The Menu is fantastic. I love The
Yeah.
Menu. All right.
So we're at your number two, Ricardo.
Number two.
Yeah.
My number two is a legacy sequel.
Yeah.
It's got your boy Tom Cruise, Jennifer
Yeah.
Connelly.
Mm-hmm.
It is Top Gun Maverick.
All right.
Man, oh man, my fists are shaking like I'm doing mock in a jet. Let me tell you, man. Look, that movie is one of the rare cases, and I say rare because it doesn't happen often, where you get the legacy sequel that hits every single note right.
Right.
Not every legacy sequel can do that. There have been a lot of legacy sequels that have tried, and they don't really know where to hit the beats. Like you said about Top Gun, it knew exactly when to be serious and it knew when to poke fun at itself. It knew when not to take itself too seriously. It knew what it was. You know what I mean? You would think that in 2022, when this movie was released, they wouldn't have a volleyball beach scene or anything. That's
Right.
so 80s. And they were like, no, no, no. This is Top Gun. You're gonna get that beach scene,
Right.
and you're watching it, and you're kind of laughing along with it. You're like, I can't believe they put it in here, but it
Right.
fits.
It was it
It's
was
kind of
it was football, but they
it
did
was
it.
football. They're
Right.
playing football on the beach, and they're having a good time, and everyone obviously is jacked, looking great. You got the men and women, and they're out there just kicking butt, doing their thing. But I loved it about the movie that it was aware of what it was. Then you want to talk about some of the best practical stunts because that's what Tom Cruise does. And the fact that Tom Cruise is literally flying a jet going these insane Mach speeds. Because when you watch this, and for those of you who don't know, obviously when you go that fast in a jet, you'll see your face kind of get sunken in.
Right.
And there are numerous scenes where Tom is legitimately flying with a camera in his cockpit and he's just flying and he's going, crazy speeds, and you see his face getting sucked in. He's doing the breathing techniques, and you're like, man, Tom is really doing it. Tom is
Right.
legitimately doing this, and it adds a form of realism to it where you're not necessarily just watching, real jet fighters from really far doing some tricks and whatnot, which in itself is extremely challenging. but you have our actors in there going through the training, going through the courses, flying with pilots, learning how to fly, learning how to be as a passenger with the cameras and acting and whatnot. And it was just great. Great tension, had me on the edge of my seat throughout this movie, never really knowing how this was going to end. Was Maverick going to make it out? Was he not? Was Goose's son ever going to make it out or not? You know what I mean? Like, it was everything I wanted in a legacy sequel. And again, it was one of those movies that it felt like a blockbuster. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
it felt like you were actually watching a blockbuster. You know what I mean? And again, like you said, they weren't afraid to show his height, because Tom Cruise next to Miles Teller,
Right.
there is a huge height difference. And something as small as that, as Tom Cruise being like, nah, that's me, man. Like, that's me. You know, I'm an
Right.
action star. I don't need to do this. And it's got possibly one of the most moving scenes I've had the pleasure of watching in a movie, especially as of late, was them being able to work with Val Kilmer again,
Right.
and having him return to play Iceman, and to closing off the set and allowing him and Tom to just work with one another after everything Val Kilmer has been through leading up to this point. And it was just really beautiful. It was really, really beautiful to see, and you could feel that love. And there's one thing that I appreciate about films, is when you can feel that love translate across the screen. And I felt that love. I felt it between Tom and Val, and Val and the movie, and seeing him return, it moved me to tears watching it. But Top Gun Maverick, man, just everything I want in a blockbuster, everything I want in a legacy sequel. It's got the triumphant ending where,
Yeah.
everyone's kind of like throwing their hands in the air, and
Yep.
it's very 80s, and it's just like, but it hits, and it hit really, really well. So for me, Top Gun Maverick, you're my number two. I love you. Thank you.
Good stuff, man. I remember what was the quote going around at the time? It's saving the cinema.
Yeah, Steven Spielberg. There's an actual audio of Steven Spielberg hugging Tom Cruise after Top Gun Maverick came out and said, "You're saving cinema." And
Yeah.
it was just, it was amazing, man. It was
Yeah,
amazing.
it made a lot of money. It made a lot of money. It did really well. Critical acclaim. It was one of the biggest surprises of the year. So
Yeah, it crossed a billion. It made a
yeah,
billion. You had a legacy sequel from a movie made in the 80s
right,
make over
right.
$1 billion
So
with modern
right, and
audiences.
and then we might add it's Tom Cruise's best-selling movie of his entire career.
Yup.
So, which is something to say. So, all right.
Oh,
So,
here we go. Here we
woo,
go.
boy, we are here at the number one movie of 2022.
Number one.
Yes. So we're gonna try to do this. Spoiler alert, it's the same thing for Ricardo and myself because we
Mhm.
knew it was going to be our number one because we talk about this movie all the time. And we're going to try to do a countdown here. So I'm going to go three, two, one, and then we'll say it. Okay.
All right.
We'll try to do it. All right.
Okay.
So three, two, one. Everything,
Everything, everywhere,
everywhere, all at
all
once.
at once.
We can do it.
Couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. I didn't know what kind of cadence you were taking. I didn't know, like, everything ever all at once. I didn't know. I
It's
didn't know.
okay. It's okay. So, and that's fun because you know what? Life isn't perfect. And
Nope.
oh man, I'm gonna keep it together for this
Yeah.
because this movie makes me emotional, man. This
It's
movie makes me
it's
emotional.
unbelievable movie.
When I before we just get into it here, and I am gonna try not to go too long because I do see us doing just an entire discussion on this movie because it deserves it.
I think so.
And you guys must be seeing all the awards that the actors are getting, that the Daniels are getting, and it's all well deserved. When
Mhm.
I saw this trailer, it immediately gripped me. It was original. That's another reason, just it just seemed like a really cool concept. It wasn't based on a property. I went to see it. The first time I went to see it, I went to see it by myself. I got it at a theater, and I voxed Ricardo, and he knows I don't give perfect scores to movies very often. And I walked out of the theater, and I told him, I said, Rick, that was a 10 for me. I I
Yup.
I couldn't believe how much I enjoyed that movie, how much it moved me, how much I wanted to see it again immediately. I went back to see it a few times in the movie theater, and then, since then I've seen it as well. But for me, there was just so much about this. the performances, the story, the messages, the philosophies. There were so many things that were touched on with this movie. I had to pull it up. Now it's been cleaning up at every awards show. You know, the Golden Globes, the Screen Actor Guilds, the BAFTAs. I can go on, Critics' Choice, on and on and on. It's leading the Oscars with 11 nominations,
Yep.
and we're just rooting for everyone to just do well here. Michelle Kwan is probably possibly a lock for Best Actress at this point. Um, uh, Ke Huy Quan, Best Supporting Actor, he might be walking away with that as well. We have two Best Supporting Actresses nominated, Jamie Lee Curtis and Stephanie Hsu, and one of them might end up walking away with it. The Danielses, they could walk away with a number of Oscars for this movie. Best Original Screenplay, Best Film Editing, Best Costume Design, um, Best Director. I'm pulling for Best Picture. I'm just going to put it out there right now.
I want it.
So,
I want
you
it.
know, I'm going to let you talk about the movie for a little bit, my friend.
It's I remember you hitting me up, and when you said it was a 10, my eyes literally got wide, because
Right,
again, it's very rare for you to do something like that, especially as soon as you did it. But I knew that that movie had an immediate impact on you, so I could not wait to watch it. I was just absolutely ready to watch it as soon as I could. And the moment I got to watch it, what I loved about it is that it's another one of those movies where maybe in the opening act I still wasn't sure what movie I was watching.
right.
And I don't mean that the first part of the movie is confusing. It's just that the movie is it's so layered. There's so much going
Oh,
on
yeah.
that you're like, okay, like where are we gonna land here?
Right,
And then when you finally start to see the hints and clues of where we're going, it just starts hitting you and hitting you. And the movie, in my to me, the movie never stops hitting you until the credits roll.
right.
It's just constantly hitting you with emotional weight. And you have the performances, my God, like Michelle Yeoh's on. She's just, I'm so glad she's getting her flowers now,
Right.
because she's been another one of those actors who have been around for a very, very, very long time. And I'm so happy that she's being seen in this light where people can see her as the star that she is.
Right.
Obviously, we're rooting for Ke Huy Quan from, a lot of people only know him as Short Round from
Right.
Indiana Jones. A lot of people, that's all they know him. I had a person ask me the other day because I think I had something on, and someone was like, "Oh, is that Short Round? Where has he been?" I think I was watching highlights from one of the award shows, and they were like, "Is that Short Round? Where's he from?" I'm like, "Oh, he actually just won for Best Supporting for Everything Everywhere All at Once." And they're like, "Oh, what's that?" And I'm like, "Oh, here you go. You got to watch
Right.
this movie." But performances are fantastic. But I love the movie for the absurdity of it all. The movie wasn't afraid to be weird,
Right.
to be over the top, and there were moments where I was laughing from the bottom of my
Oh,
stomach,
yeah.
just
It's funny.
laughing,
Right.
just going like, "What are we watching?" But I love that there was a method to the madness,
Yeah.
because that movie a lot of times gets mad. And when you start to piece it together of what it all means, and you're able to walk away from that movie where I remember when I finished watching it, my brain didn't turn off. It wasn't one of those movies where I was like, "Oh, I watched it. Okay, moving on with my day." I couldn't
Right.
stop thinking about the movie, because it was teaching me lessons that even as an adult at my age, and being a parent, and or just being a friend, like there's so much happening in this movie that I just kept thinking about it, and just like, man, just give this all the awards, please.
Right.
Best original screenplay, best film, because again, it was so out of the box and unique
Right.
and beautiful and touching and tragic. And it had me thinking nonstop. And we talked about it a lot, and like you said, we're definitely gonna do a full breakdown episode,
We will.
because it's kind of hard not to, you know what I mean?
Right, absolutely, and I remember the first thing I said to you when I came out of the theater was, I said, "Michelle Yeoh is gonna get nominated for this performance." You just knew it was a
Yep.
career best performance from her. The minute
Yep.
you knew it was something special as you were watching the movie, from her, and, not to knock any of the other nominees that we've seen in all the other award shows. All those women are very talented. I'm not going to go down the list there, but for me, it's just being in this movie. She deserves it. On top of the fact that her performance was amazing, for me, it checked all the boxes as far as genres go too. In the beginning, you're thinking, okay, is this a dark comedy? Okay, and then is this an action movie? And then is this a sci-fi movie? And then at the very end, you're just like, this is a drama.
Yeah.
It's mostly a drama when you think about it. But the wonderful part about it is it doesn't need to be labeled anything. It just is.
Mm-mm.
You know,
Exactly. It
it
just is.
it just is, just such a beautiful portrayal of life and all the possibilities that it brings. And
Yep.
I cannot wait till we sit down and talk about this movie. I'm getting emotional right now,
Yeah.
like it's gonna be hard for me to keep it together, when we talk about that. And but more than likely it'll be post the Oscars. So at that point we'll already know
Mhm.
all the awards that excuse me, all the wins that it will have accrued by then. And and just I need to mention this just as a mixed Asian man, it just hits me as well. Just being
Yeah.
able to see that representation and seeing all of my fellow Asian and mixed Asian acquaintances and friends, just the way that it hit them. Um, Without going into it too much, I've had time to think about it. This is one of my favorite movies ever. Not just
I
my
can see
favorite movie of 2022.
I
It's one
can
of my
see that.
one of my favorite movies of all time. So, um, top 15, possibly top 10. It's
Yeah.
I've
It's
had
that
time to
good.
think. I've had time to think about it, and um, I will end with this. The one thing that and I'll mention this again. Obviously, there were a couple things that I said maybe we could have done without that, and then I sat back and I thought about it, and I said to myself, yeah, but that's the thing about life, though. Life isn't always squeaky clean. Things
Mhm.
aren't always going to be in every place. So the parts that you felt that this movie could have done without, perhaps they were in there for a reason because, just to you, if this movie is an expression of life, then life shouldn't be squeaky clean. It's going to have all these ups and downs and hills and valleys and everything in between. So, despite the things that I felt that the movie could have done without, it made me love the movie even more.
Yeah.
So, there we go.
It's great,
Oh,
man.
alrighty, folks, that was our top 10 movies of 2022.
Yep.
We just finished discussing Everything Everywhere All at Once, but I am going to try to put up a graphic here that displays all 10 of our movies for each of us. And we did want to thank you for viewing. We wanted to thank you for listening. If you could please give us a like, share, and subscribe on YouTube at The Panel Bros. We'd appreciate it. If you could please let us know what your top 10 movies of 2022 were, or at least your top five, or if not, at least your favorite movie of
Yep.
2022. Please let us know in the comments below and let us know how you felt about our placements. We would appreciate that. For Ricardo Segura, this is Anderson Marchak saying thank you for coming to the panel.